Alright, everybody, let's see this. Where we're going to. Tito's Yugoslavia and Masterclass in that. Let's see.
Often hear the phrase
Masterclass
Tito's Yugoslavia, but you've never
in
heard
that.
Trump's America or Merkel's Germany. The reason is simple. The personalization of power is not a sign of strength, but a symptom of severe dependency. Today, we are talking about a state that didn't collapse solely due to hatred, but because it never learned to walk without someone else's crutches.
That's not true. That is absolutely not true. The problem was that Tito, he employed war criminals who did a genocide. It's that easy. He employed war criminals who did genocide, and their families had it very good in Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia, should it be actually? Or Serboslavia. Because, all positions was held by Serbs and Croats, and everybody else could just shut up and had basically no rights. So yeah.
The year is 1945. On the Balkans, a state is forming on three pillars: socialism, brotherhood, and unity, and non-alignment.
That's funny, brotherhood and all of this. Yo, where do we start? Do we start with the economic genocide of ethnic groups? Do we start with underdevelopment in certain areas with certain religions? Where do we start? It's a lie. It's a lie that everybody is talking about Yugoslavia this, Yugoslavia that. It's all just Wikipedia lies. It's fake history, deep fake history, made up. It's propaganda. It's not real. It's just not true. It's made up.
The partisan movement, led by Tito, emerged from the hell of occupation and a brutal struggle against domestic collaborators.
Yeah, sure, man. It was hell for him drinking whiskey and just doing nothing, losing all the time. Yeah, that's hard, man. He wasn't in the front lines. He almost got captured once, but yeah, bailed and left his whole army to get, yeah. But, bruv, this guy was a loser. He was backed by America, the British, the French, the Russians. Basically, they gave him Yugoslavia, Serboslavia. They gave him it to control. So yeah, he didn't win. He didn't fight for freedom. He didn't, bruv. It's just a joke, bruv. Honestly, if anybody really do history and really contact some real historians from basically down in the ex-Yugoslavia, you can get the real story. This is just Wikipedia shit, man.
Without a central command and with limited outside support, they conducted guerrilla warfare and created the territorial basis for a new state. In this so-called heroic
No, they didn't do guerrilla warfare. They had the U.S. Army at disposal. Not the U.S. Army, but the U.S. Air Force. They had basically logistics from the Brits and the Russians and the Americans. Bruv, just forget about it. He didn't do shit, bruv. Even he employed war criminals who should have been dealt with right after the war, but instead he employed them and gave them money and power, and those guys went out and did shit, very much shit in Yugoslavia, Serboslavia. So This is just fake history, bro. Honestly, this is bad. The information in this is bad. It's propaganda. It's Wikipedia. I don't know who the fuck even believes this shit anymore.
Story, there's a tiny detail that usually gets swept under the rug. Western support. Between 1945 and 1948, the American-funded relief agency pumped $400 million into the country for food, medicine, and machinery. To put that in perspective, that was roughly 10% of the entire state budget. Without that imperialist cash injection, the victorious army would have spent its first 3 years staring at empty plates.
There wouldn't be a
Сталин толкова се бил разположил, зграбил ме овако по паса, па ме дигна, па ме гледа. Па каже, ви здоров? Еко здрав. Берегите своje здоровlje, kaže, nužno budete dla Evropi. A mi svi on spustili, onda smiju oko Stalina. Pa kak, tovariš Stalin, pa vi zdorovi, vi krepki, vi dolgo žiti budete.
The year is 1948. The split between Tito and Stalin shocks the world. It was the very first crack in the Iron Curtain. Stalin publicly condemns Tito.
Yeah, because Tito, he wouldn't relinquish his power. He wanted to be El Presidente. And Stalin, he was like, you ain't El Presidente, I'm like El Presidente. And America was the guy with the money, and America was like, hell yeah, take some dollars, man, just be with us. And the Brits also, after the war, they can do it more like freely. It's not like in the war they did it like secretively because they were the Red Army and all. Bruv, the Red Army is backed by the States. All the fucking Russia would have been, if it wasn't for America and the Brits, and Russia would have fallen in World War II, and everything would be looking different. But yeah, America had the money and offered money. Stalin, he wanted money, taxes, and different things, probably produces and natural resources, whatever, bruv. So yeah, that's basically it. But yeah.
Calling for his overthrow. What follows is a nightmare of economic blockades, spy games, and the constant threat of a Soviet invasion. Inside Yugoslavia, the regime responds with brutal repression. On the skeleton islands of the Adriatic Sea, over 16,000 internal enemies have their backs straightened through forced labor and torture. But while he was crushing dissent at home, Tito was playing a high-stakes game of geopolitical poker on the world stage. He turned to the one place Stalin feared most:
I hope during this visit,
Washington.
No. He didn't turn to shit. America already fucking planned this. Forget about it. America planned it. America, I don't know who the fuck was it that got him airborne out of there, man, to escape in World War II. Brian, yo, the Brits bombed for him, the American bombed for him. They sent airplanes, they sent... Listen, guys, everybody. It's not... Nothing is from just happens. People are talking way before any war even starts, bro. Everybody knows everything even before things start. I don't know how this shit is even fucking able to be on YouTube, man. This fake history, man. America, the Brits, the Russians were already collaborating in World War II, a little before World War II. Everybody knows this. This is just... If you don't know this, you live in another dimension, bro. If you live in US or something, it's the only place where they have this story. I don't know, man.
1950, a crippling drought has scorched the earth, turning the Soviet blockade into a literal crisis of survival for the population. In a move that would forever define the era, the US Congress passes the Yugoslav Emergency Relief Act. And soon, Adriatic ports are swarmed with American ships unloading vast quantities of flour, lard, and most famously, the powdered eggs.
American goods coming straight to you from the American elites that has your best interests at heart.
That would enter local folklore as Truman's eggs. This yellow powder became the literal fuel for a struggling nation, creating a peak historical irony. While the official rhetoric still criticized the capitalist system, the Yugoslav people were eating their breakfast directly from the hands of Harry Truman. This aid was the Western entry ticket into the Yugoslav system, an infusion that bought social peace but killed the need for real market reforms. From 1949 to 1955, the US poured $600 million in weapons and $1.2 billion in economic aid into Yugoslavia. The shipments ranged from Sherman tanks to the very wheat that fed the nation. Tito claimed independence from Moscow, yet his state relied entirely on American subsidies. The regime branded.
Don't forget British and French. Bruv, this is deeper than this guy is talking. It's much deeper. It's all about the New World Order. If you know about New World Order, bruv, it's much deeper.
This as non-alignment. In reality, it was a geopolitical payoff. Yugoslavia collected Western checks to stay out of the Soviet orbit, all while maintaining its communist core.
No. Yugoslavia, the elites and all of that ran on the Western money.
People still talk about the 50s and early 60s as the absolute golden age. Back then, Yugoslavia was trying to pull off the impossible, a brand of communism that actually had a human face, but with a sleek capitalist polish. Once they told Stalin to piss off, they brought in worker self-management. The pitch was world-class. The factories belong to the guys working the line, and the people get the final say. The country started building like crazy overnight. Industrial giants like Energoinvest and Konchar literally rose out of the mud. Modern flats started popping up. The first real hotels hit the Adriatic coast, and the Yugoslav standard of living became the envy of everyone's.
Sure, bro, sure. Yeah, this is the cities. Just go outside the cities and really look how it looks. Bruv, people are... I hate this fucking fake illusion of... Yo, bro, people are fucking living in the fucking 1800s outside the cities. In Yugoslavia. That's the fucking truth. In that time, people are fucking living in the 1800s outside the cities, bruv. It was the elites. And all of this shit, man. Also this Yugoslavia shit, man. It's the same shit, man.
Stuck behind the iron.
If you swore loyalty to the state and shut up and were just a robot and had no honor, no nothing, bruv, then you might get an apartment here or something. I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe you gotta do some other things too. Probably you gotta do some other things too.
Curtain.
But also, all these guys who got these rights and lived in these apartments were people who, if it was real, should have been in for war crimes and dealt with after World War II.
Look,
so
it wasn't just a sale.
Right now, the middle class that are getting built up are war criminals. The whole middle class in Yugoslavia that is getting built up by Tito getting money and grants from the States and the rest of Europe or whatever, bruv, are built up on guys who did G-side in World War II. How the fuck do you expect to have anything fucking normal then? The fuck?
Pitch. By the mid-60s, the average Yugoslav was living like a king compared to a Pole, a Czech, or a Hungarian. You could actually buy stuff that was a total luxury elsewhere. People could travel, or they could get a mortgage for a flat. This was a reality.
True. Why the fuck are you guys like, yo, people were fucking working migrants then. People sent out. Listen, people were so broke. A whole family dependent on one person who went out to send money back. And that person lived on fucking scraps, bruv, until he can come back, bruv. So this bullshit, this is all bullshit, bruv. The only guys who had it good was criminals and the elite, the Communistic Party elites. They had it good.
You could feel in your wallet. But behind that shiny facade, the economic engine was constantly stalling, mostly because self-management had morphed into a bloated, sluggish mess. Instead of people who actually understood the market, you had political committees calling the shots, pumping out goods left and right that, frankly, nobody wanted to buy.
Was halten Sie von den Gastarbeitern in Deutschland?
Was soll ich von den Gastarbeitern? Wir sind zu viel hier.
By the early 1960s, Yugoslavia's internal reserves had run bone dry. The country was caught in a painful vice between global ambitions and Balkan productivity. That post-war fire that built the railways had faded, replaced by a cold, hard truth. The system could no longer feed its own children. Suddenly, a massive surplus of labor emerged, people who had become a burden to their own homeland. It was then that Tito and the party made a move that wasn't really about economics, yet it saved the Yugoslav economy. Rather than admitting that their self-sustaining socialism was bankrupt, they chose to export the problem. In 1965, instead of giving people economic freedom at home, they gave them the freedom to leave. They handed out that famous red passport, not as a badge of prestige, but as a one-way ticket to survival. By 1973, over 1 million Yugoslavs had become an invisible army of laborers across the West. That year alone,
That is definitely not how it was done. People, it was all organized. You can go and apply and get a work abroad. People went to North Africa, to the Middle East, to Europe, to bruv. It was a shit show, bro. People fucking built fucking bunkers in Iraq and in Libya and bruv. The stories people got down there, bruv, you don't know shit, bruv. None of you know shit, bruv. Honestly, I don't even know how the fuck people still believe all these weird history things, bruv. Listen, it was organized, working, I don't know, a broad project. People would go apply, get a job abroad, they would go, they would bring back money because people were so poor. They were so poor, you know. People were stealing. Bro, you don't know shit, bro. It was a fucking shit show. And fucking people are making it seem like it was fucking Ethiopia or something, some shit like that.
they sent home $1.5 billion, a staggering 20% of the entire state budget. It was the tragic math of survival. Every fifth dinar the state spent was
And the state also took some money from the paychecks too.
earned by a worker scrubbing floors or mixing concrete in Munich, Stuttgart, or Vienna. Tito saved the state by exporting its discontent. While these workers dreamed of home in the lonely silence of German barracks, they were wired back the hard currency that fueled a mirage of prosperity. That money allowed him to keep playing the role of a successful leader of a happy nation, while its true strength was slowly bleeding out on foreign construction sites. Let's take a moment and really picture it. In 1970, Yugoslavia's external debt sat at around $2 billion. The state was borrowing, sure, but it still had its hands on the financial reins. By the time 5 years had passed, the whole picture had changed as the debt shot up to $6 billion. Even though the country still looked successful and shiny on the outside, the hidden cracks in the system were starting to get wider. Then, in 1980, the debt hit a shocking $20 billion. To make it simple, that was more than 1/4 of everything the country earned in a year. Tito was not worried about tomorrow, because his only goal was to make sure the country survived today. And at that, he was a master. In 1968, students marched in the streets to demand fairness. But the government only gave them small changes, while the country kept spending more than it actually earned. A few years later, when the money coming in from workers abroad started to dry up, a classic fight broke out over who was cheating whom. These nationalist tensions were really just a sign of an empty wallet, because when the money runs out, a family fight is almost inevitable. People in Croatia complained that Belgrade was stealing their tourist money to build failing factories in other areas, while the Slovenes felt like they were dragging a train full of lazy neighbors behind them. From Belgrade, the leaders shouted back that the others were ungrateful, and the argument over who was feeding whom became more important than actually producing anything. Nationalism was used.
No, again, the problem. Slovenia, honestly, I understand it. Slovenia, it's like Slovenia. It's like its own thing, you know. Slovenian people are civilized. They're different kind of people. I don't know, man. I've not the Slovenians I know, and what I know about their culture, they're more laid back and don't worry about so much, and it's just like, eh. But all of this with what's it called? With Serbia, yeah, that's true. And Croatia also. Listen, the problem is Tito, he brought in 300,000 war criminals. It's that easy. 250, 300,000 war criminals. Just of the Serbs. And of course they're gonna steal, man. And destroy and undermine the system and country, and the same as the Croatians, you know, they did the same. Bro, everybody, you can call a fucking first year historian from West Balkan, and he can basically say, I don't know how this, I don't know, man. It's too easy to say there's a waste of money. No, the waste is by people stealing. People stole with legs and arms, man. People were stealing. People were. There was a big black market. Perhaps all of you don't know shit. This guy who made this video don't know nothing.
Used as a pressure valve to hide a failing economy. It was much easier to tell people they were poor because others were stealing than to admit the whole system was falling apart like a house of cards.
Listen, you employ over 500,000 war criminals. If you're speaking about the Serbs, they had 300,000 war criminals who got into the party and got very comfortable jobs. I don't know how many Croatians, but probably a lot too. And I don't know how many communists who, yeah, were majority Croatian and Serbians too. So let's be honest, man. You brought a lot of war criminals in to start a middle class. Of course, it's not gonna run. It's no matter how much money you pump into the system, there's never gonna be enough money, because you got low moral people with low IQ. What do you expect?
Umro je drug Tito. To su večera saopštili Centralni komitet Saveza komunista Jugoslavije i predsjedništvo Socijalističke federativne republike Jugoslavije.
There is a certain kind of poetic irony in the timing of Tito's death, because his greatest economic success was actually the date he passed away, in May 1980. He left at the exact moment the curtain began to fall, leaving everyone else to turn out the lights and face the darkness that was coming. He was a genius at surviving, and he knew how to be dangerous enough to keep Moscow away, while being useful enough to get the West to pay his bills. He was a master at balancing on the edge of a cliff, and he lived in an era where personal charm could replace economic logic. In his world, the image was always more important than the bank account, and the words he spoke were more convincing than the actual numbers. He was the last great mythical leader of the Balkans, not because he built something that would last forever.
Again, he wasn't a leader. He was a puppet who was put there by the Americans, British, and French. It's that easy. It's not any more complicated than that. And the Russians. It was a collaboration, as the Americans and Russians have had collaborations through all the World Wars, World War One, World War Two. Also with China, America basically built up China. It built China. America built China. America built the Chinese army. So, rough.
But because he managed to die before the myth could be completely ruined. If fate had kept him on the stage...
Listen, there was no myth. It could have run. Honestly, it could have run. Serboslavia could have run if the Serbs and the Croats would steal less. If they still was stealing less, bruv, you don't understand how underdeveloped some religious groups areas were. It's that easy. Bro, nobody, this is not a real analyze about the fall and Tito and all of this, Yugoslavia. This is not the real analyze. This is sloppy Wikipedia.
Until 1990, history would likely not have sent him off with the tears of kings and presidents. Instead of a grand goodbye, he probably would have faced the anger of people who realized that their apartments and golden years were just a down payment for a bill that had finally come due. Just 2 years after his death, Yugoslavia officially admitted what the numbers had been screaming for years. The country was bankrupt. There was no longer enough money for
Of course the country is bankrupt. Nobody's paying taxes. The fuck are you talking about? There's a big market, black market. People are importing, exporting. Bruv. Honestly, Yugoslavia was built to steal. Nothing else. Steal, steal, steal. That's basically it. That all people did.
Coffee, oil, or fuel, and the government had
from some nations, and that's why some nations got mad when other nations broke out of Serboslavia, because then they had to work for the money. They couldn't steal the money from others and keep big parts of the land underdeveloped. Bruv, it's just so fucking dumb, bruv. This, honestly, guys, these YouTubers who are making videos and all of this shit and really spending money, bruv, do your fucking homework, man.
To bring in ration coupons and strict limits on driving. This was the moment when the image of successful socialism cracked like a broken mirror. In 1983, Yugoslavia signed its first major deal with the International Monetary Fund, and the rules were very cold and clear. The state had to cut wages and close down factories that were losing money. Everything that had been hidden for decades behind fancy talk was now stripped bare by cold mathematics. By the end of the 80s, inflation hit an unbelievable 1,240%. This meant that something you bought for 100 dinars in January would cost over 1,300 dinars by December, and the money was losing its value literally every single hour.
Sinoć je Jugoslavija ušla u završnu fazu svoje agonije.
That final phase of agony was the moment the bill for decades of borrowing finally came due. You can remember that time with nostalgia, but economics does not run on feelings, and the numbers simply do not lie. A system built on foreign loans and the charisma of one man could not survive once that man was gone. Yugoslavia was an incredible political creation, but economically, it was a fast train with no brakes where nobody was allowed to ask where the tracks were leading. Today, we are still living with the aftermath of that ride, divided into small countries that cannot agree on their past, let alone their future. The biggest irony is that Yugoslavia
Sloppy work. Bad fucking video. The information is propaganda and lies, not real analytics. It's just bad. Basically bad lies. Honestly, that this guy even fucking made this whole video, he's a special kind of retard even for doing that. That's basically it.
wanted to be independent, but it survived on other people's money. It built a dream of unity, but it fell apart in a tragedy that changed the Balkans forever. Now we are left with the question that still divides families at the dinner table. Was that feeling of safety worth the price we eventually paid? Or was Yugoslavia just a long and expensive delay of a reality we were too afraid to face?
No, it was
Maybe
made
it wasn't
by...
the solution. Maybe it was just the last.
It was already destroyed when war criminals was running the state. When war criminals were allowed to get pardoned and not dealt with according to how people were dealt with after World War II, because honestly, it was from the day fucking one, it was a failed experiment because you had the upper class and you had the lower class. I don't give a fuck who the fuck you are. If you go in and study this shit, you had the higher class, you had the lower class. And that's basically it. There's nothing, brother, freedom, nothing shit. Forget about it. That's just bullshit. That's fucking talk to fucking, I don't know, good night story. Nothing else. See you guys next time.